If you're a hip-hop fan, you know that we've been blessed with a number of great records in the summer of 2025. It's been a while since I can remember a trifecta of show-stopping hip-hop records from such big names dropping like this, so this has been a pretty exciting summer. Tyler, the Creator's Don't Tap the Glass, Freddie, Gibbs, and the Alchemist, Alfredo 2, and Clipse's Let God Sort 'Em Out have defined the summer for me as well as many hip-hop fans. I think each of these albums are excellent in their very own particular ways. There have been other great hip-hop albums that have come out in the summer of 2025, so I plan to touch on those too. So let's talk about it. Let's talk about how the summer of 2025 has been so great for hip-hop. Let's start right off with the most high-profile hip-hop album of the summer. That's Clipse's Let God Sort 'Em Out. There had long been rumors about Clipse, consisting of brothers Pusha T and Malice, reuniting after taking about a 15-year hiatus. Pusha T, as we know, has had a very robust and active solo career since Clipse broke up in 2010, as Malice kind of decided that he didn't want to rap anymore. For years, there had been rumors of them getting back together, and in 2022, they made it official. They kind of teased new music, they teased an album, and they finally put their money where their mouth is with the July 11th release of Let God Sort 'Em Out. And for me, the wait was well worth it, as I'm going to go out on a limb here and say that this album is better than either of their marquee albums from the 2000s that made Clipse the name they are today. I was absolutely stunned by this record. I don't really think it's a return to form, as Push and Malice have basically grown a ton, and you can see it right off the bat. It's also a continuation of the work between the two, as well as another key contributor from their city, Virginia Beach. That's Pharrell Williams. Now, Clipse's early work was defined by production work from the Neptunes, which was Pharrell as well as Chad Hugo. The Neptunes are no longer together, it's just Pharrell this time, so the Virginia Beach connection is alive and well here. These guys are showing chemistry like I can't even believe in 2025. And while I think it's Push and Malice's evolution that really does help define this album, you cannot overlook just how spectacular the production work from Pharrell is. The Thornton brothers sadly lost their father in recent years, and they waste no time talking about this on the opening track, The Birds Don't Sing, which utilizes a lush piano sample and a creative vocal sample from Pharrell, as well as a great guest spot from John Legend. The next two tracks, Chains and Whips and POV, feature two of the top West Coast artists out right now, Kendrick Lamar and Tyler, the Creator, respectively. The album comes out emotional, and then it gets triumphant before Push and Malice really do get back in their bag on So Be It Part 2. This song has an amazing exotic sample. Apparently Pharrell had to go through some crazy stuff to get the sample cleared from like a Saudi Arabian artist. This is vintage Clipse here, as the two MCs address industry conflict in a very haunting, matter-of-fact type of way, especially in the case of Pusha T, where he calls out Travis Scott. Now, there's a lot of this throughout the album. There's a lot of references to both Travis Scott and Kanye West, who Pusha T had a falling out with after Kanye really started to show his true colors and his disgusting social views. Props to Pusha T for standing up to that. He and Kanye made some very influential music, especially on 2018's Daytona, but Pusha's standing up for what's right here. He's getting the toxic people out of his life. So the album, it really comes in hot, but it doesn't really take its foot off the gas as it goes on. Ace Trumpets gives off classy but menacing vibes, where the two MCs, they kind of lurk in the background. They trade bars about lavish shopping sprees and once upon a time tales of being these cold-hearted hustlers. Mike Tyson Blow to the Face features another great sampling job by Pharrell. It's one of the most infectious beats on the record. Coke rap stalwart Stove God Cooks shows up for the song FICO. That's a chilling guest appearance, and it precedes one of the greatest guest appearances of Nas's career. On the title track, Let God Sort 'Em Out / Chandeliers, Nas just pops in on the second half of this track and goes to town. So many fire-ass moments on this album, so many of them. The nostalgia of hearing Push and Malice go back and forth, trade these verses, trade these bars, it takes me back to my high school days, honestly. Somehow, though, they sound sharper than ever. They're into their 40s, they have aged, they've matured, they're not these hungry young hustlers that they once were, and yet they find a way to sound even sharper than they did back in their glory days. At the same time, they have an emotional range from cruel and unforgiving to heartfelt and self-conscious. And like I said, Pharrell also has gotten better with age. He really does a great job on this album from front to back. He gives us one of the most impressive production jobs in what's been an extremely storied career. The chemistry between Pharrell and the Thornton brothers seems to have just picked up where it left off about 20 years ago when they dropped 2006's Hell Hath No Fear. I believe that was the last album to be done by the Neptunes in full. As for Let God Sort 'Em Out, there are very, very few weak moments on here. It's not a no-skip album. Songs like All Things Considered and Inglourious Bastards definitely not quite up to the quality of the rest of the album. But look, it's extremely solid from front to back. This is a wonderful return by Clipse. I didn't think it was going to be that good when it came out, but I've just been spinning this thing for the last 3 weeks since it came out non-stop. This is on my short list so far for Hip Hop Album of the Year. I'm giving this album an A-. That's a 90 to 92 numerically. Freddie Gibbs is one of the most consistent and celebrated rappers of the last 15 years. He emerged out of Gary, Indiana as a mixtape rapper in the 2000s, kind of made a move to LA and really started to emerge big time in the first half of the 2010s. His 2014 collaboration with Madlib, the album Pinata, is what really put him on the map and really gave him international prominence. Since that album, he's had a solid career. He and Madlib did another album 5 years later. He had a number of solid projects in the second half of the 2010s. He first linked up with the Alchemist on the album Freddie, which also featured Currency. That's from 2018. But it was in the summer of 2020 that the Alchemist and Freddie Gibbs decided to get together, just the two of them, and they dropped Alfredo. That collaboration album was one of the most heralded hip-hop albums of the year. 2020 had some great hip-hop records. Alfredo's in my top 5 from that year. It showed Gibbs dizzying, cold delivery, flowing over some sample-heavy, diverse beats from the Alchemist. The work on Alfredo that the Alchemist did was some of the best of his career to that point. And here we are again, 5 summers later, the two are linking up again for the sequel, Alfredo 2, which may just be better than the original. I will say I do have a couple of conflicting perspectives on this album. We'll start with the good. First of all, I think the Alchemist continues to outdo himself on every high-profile project that he's a part of. Some of the beats on Alfredo 2 are just stunning. He finds a way to do these sample flips that kind of incorporate some sort of Asian music. He turns them into a backdrop for Freddie to clean up with his sometimes chopper flow, which when it's not that chopper flow, it really is laid back, it's calculated, his wordplay is sharp. The second to last track, Jean-Claude, is one of my favorites. Alchemist gives us a laid back keyboard sample while Freddie spits some of his more personal and darker bars on the whole album. The flute sample on the closer, 1,000 Moments, it's so chill and laid back and gives this juxtaposition to Freddie's cold delivery. The fresh sound of Ensalada, the cloud rap tendencies of Skinny Suge Part 2. There are so many great musical moments on this album courtesy of the Alchemist. The Jid feature on the song Gold Feet actually sees the Alchemist kind of catering to Jid, bringing in a more southern fried hi-hat that adapts to Jid's flow. Alchemist is good at doing that. He can kind of be diverse on the boards and give these rappers beats that they may be more comfortable rhyming over. And by the way, Jid absolutely steals the show on this track. But notice how I said one of my favorite moments on the album is when we get a guest appearance in there. That's going to be my one criticism of this album. That's the kind of opposing perspective that I said I had. I think the album gets a little bit old lyrically towards the end, and this is a criticism I have not just of this record, but for many of Freddie Gibbs' projects. You have the guest appearances, they're pretty minimal. You have Anderson .Paak on Ensalada. You have a rather uninspired appearance by the slow rapping Larry June on the song Feeling, and then of course the Jid feature on Gold Feet. But 95% of the vocals you hear on this album are Freddie Gibbs, and guess what? He's kind of talking about the same thing throughout. He doesn't have a lot of diverse subject material, and again, this is a problem for his other albums as well. It's the biggest knock I have when we try to put Freddie Gibbs into this conversation of who are the modern day greats. It's that he doesn't deviate from the coke raps and these eye-rolling bars about all the women he has. Like, who cares, man? There have been moments in his career where he's gotten a lot more personal on the mic, and on this album, also on Alfredo 1, we do not see a lot of that. He's mostly flexing. It's fun for a while, but then it gets old. His voice is incredible, okay? He uses this chopper style. He has this fast, relentless flow, and my God, when he executes it, when he does it the way he knows how to do it, it's among the best in the game. But 48 minutes of hearing him rap about the same thing, no matter the style, no matter how good the beats are, it does get a little tiring. For what it is, he executes it nearly perfectly, I'll say that. He's absolutely rock solid technically as a rapper here. Freddie also seems to be getting better with age as a rapper. But yeah, that's subject matter. That's a sticking point for me on Alfredo 2. The Alchemist gives some of the best beats of his career, and when you marry that aesthetic to Freddie's flows, the subject matter does become less of a problem, as these two are both like athletes in mid-season form. However, my final verdict is that Freddie's lack of lyrical diversity does keep this from being a modern classic. I think this is a B+ album ranging somewhere between 87 and 89 numerically. Still a great album. I recently did a rundown of a list from Mark Echo's Complex Media Group. It was the top 50 Los Angeles rappers of all time. Number 5 on that list was Tyler, the Creator, who I thought was an excellent pick. I think he's one of the most diverse and impressive artists in the game, especially in the last 10 years. I think it started sort of with that incredible glow up on his 2017 album Flower Boy, which showed us just how diverse of an artist he could be. Since then, he's dropped 4 sonically diverse albums, each one distinctly different than the last, and his latest album, Don't Tap the Glass, is possibly his most different and daring album yet. Off the bat, This is not a pure hip-hop album. Tyler's magnum opus perhaps came in the form of 2019's Igor, which is more of an R&B and a synth-funk album, so we already know that Tyler is kind of comfortable outside of the walls of traditional hip-hop. It seems as if he was casting his line out there once again on Don't Tap the Glass, but instead of making this kind of a concept album about emotion and falling in love like he did with Igor, this is just a feel-good, carefree, danceable record. It's as much of an electronic and a dance record as it is a hip-hop album, as we see elements of Miami bass, synth-funk, electro, a number of other electronic genres. Tyler wrote, composed, produced, arranged all of this album on his own like he does with most of his work. It's just another extension of one of hip-hop's greatest minds. He's one of the most forward-thinking guys in the game, not just in hip-hop, but in music in general. And by branching out on Don't Tap the Glass, he's further cementing this legacy of his. Tyler lets you know right off the bat on the intro to the first song, Big Poe, for the listener to leave their baggage at home, none of that deep shit, as he says, and then immediately hits you with a danceable, confident number that brings in none other than Pharrell Williams, who trades verses with Tyler along the way. Man, what a summer it's been for Pharrell. Don't Tap the Glass moves from track to track pretty quickly. We immediately get into the upbeat Sugar on My Tongue, which is this bright, bass-heavy, almost hip house song that continues to show Tyler's versatility with lush melodies over a guttural, knocking bass line. The third track, Sucker Free, it's another carefree, hedonistic cut that shows a confident version of Tyler really kind of dumbing it down, and he's doing this as a flex, not because he's trying to appeal to stupid people or anything. We know he's not a simplistic rapper, he's just kind of getting in a new bag and trying something different, which as a listener, I appreciate that. It's also cool to know that he's got the confidence to drop a track like this. He's really gained confidence since 2022's Call Me If You Get Lost. It's not my favorite song on here, but it's still a fun track. Momonem is a polarizing, kind of minimalistic track where Tyler gets a little bit wild before heading into one of the lead singles, Stop Playing With Me, which probably is the most popular cut off of the album. Tyler did a very high-profile video for this that featured Clipse and LeBron James. It's an energetic, driving, unapologetic cut that shows him at maximum confidence. And then Ring Ring Ring, the sixth track, is probably my favorite off the record. It's an Igor type track, it's an R&B type of song with an infectious chorus and yet another danceable, driving bass line. The title track is more of kind of an electronic driven hardcore hip-hop song that's actually one of the darker moments on the album. The track is split with the equally dark Tweakin'. In the last 30% of the album, things get a little bit more chilled out, they get a little more lush. Don't You Worry Baby is kind of a soft, almost sensual song that somehow still remains danceable, while I'll Take Care of You is a gorgeous piece with an excellent chorus from the singer Yebba, who gives us that hypnotic chorus as Tyler pumps out vocal samples from Crime Mob's Knuck a Few Buck, and then at the end of the song he sort of evolves it into this East Coast type club banger. Very interesting some of the trajectories that some of these songs take. The album ends with Tyler showing his singing pipes again on Tell Me What It Is. It's a really lush, chilled out, positive note to end what's been a fun, engaging album. And Don't Tap the Glass is such a unique, diverse piece of Tyler's discography. He's such a versatile artist that he's just able to do an album that's not even really hip-hop and still do a damn good job at it. He captivated his fan base, he captivated the hip-hop world. I think there's been a little bit of a strange reception to this album. I think people were expecting more along the lines of Chromacopia or Call Me If You Get Lost. I don't think it's the greatest album in his discography. I think this album is more significant and important for showing his versatility as an artist, for making his discography even more broad and covering more genres. That's what a really good artist does, and I made this comparison in my LA Top 50 video, but Tyler is kind of a do-it-all guy. He's the arranger, he's the producer, composer, curates his whole music, he's an incredible live performer, and he has a diverse catalog. Honestly, he's like West Coast hip-hop's Prince. That's right, I'm comparing Tyler the Creator to Prince. What are you gonna do about it? I appreciate the hell out of this album, although it's not his best ever. I like Tyler more when he's in his hip-hop bag, so I'm giving Don't Tap the Glass a solid B rating. That's an 83 to 86 numerically. There are a number of other hip-hop albums from more low-profile artists that we've been treated to since the beginning of the summer of 2025, which I'm gonna define as starting on June 1st. Right at the mid-year point, about a month before this video was recorded, I did my favorite albums from the first half of 2025, and one that made my top 3 was McKinley Dixon's Magic Alive. The Virginia rapper gives us a quick but ambitious concept album that shows the young, intelligent rapper building off an incredible discography from the 2020s so far. The concept has to do with a group of friends where one of the friends dies and the other friends try to resurrect him through the use of magic. He does it through excellent guest appearances, dense, jazzy soundscapes. Probably the big takeaway from that album, other than the concept, are the soundscapes. And McKinley Dixon has always been known to utilize these jazzy background ensembles, and he does it all with such a cerebral, calculated calculated delivery. Even with the high-profile albums that came out in July, Magic Alive remains in my top 5 albums, regardless of genre, for 2025. For me, it gets an A- or a 90 to 92 numerically. Another album that made my top 10 at mid-year was Little Simz' latest effort, Lotus. The London-based rapper had a bit of a conflict with longtime collaborator and producer Inflow, and on this album she sort of vents about just how much that messed her up. Inflow, of course, was a huge part in Little Simz' success, starting with her 2019 breakout album Gray Area. Simz really pours her heart out about the situation and gives us a collection of really meaningful music here. They just continue to show how talented of a writer and a rapper that she is, and how excellent she is at communicating her feelings over some jazzy, soulful beats. I really enjoy Lotus. A lot of people like previous work from Little Simz. Low-key, it's one of my favorite projects of hers. B+ for this one. This is in the 87 to 89 range. One more for now, and it's the latest collaboration album between Detroit rapper Boldy James and Montreal producer Nicholas Craven. Late to My Own Funeral. It's another quick-hitting project that shows Boldy rapping in his deep-voiced, clever coke raps. He's got this stream of consciousness delivery that make the coke raps seem a lot more cerebral than a guy like Freddie Gibbs, let's say. The big takeaway from this album, though, as good as Boldy is, are Nicholas Craven's beats. I am a huge sucker for his soul samples and the way that he samples sort of these obscure older artists. He's very deep when it comes to his sampling work. Overall, I think he's one of the most talented sample flippers in the game right now. I think he's hella underrated. I think he is close to the same level that Alchemist is operating on these days. I was a bit underwhelmed by their last collaboration album. They've done a total of 3. 2024's Penalty of Leadership left me kind of wanting more, especially after the behemoth album that was 2022's Fair Exchange No Robbery, which was the first time Boldy and Craven had collaborated. Late to My Own Funeral sees Craven kind of stepping it up almost back to that level from their debut. He gives us one of my all-time favorite beats on the song Antonio Tuttle. It's such a simple sample. There's nothing super flashy about it, but it's just melodic and beautiful, and it matches Boldy's dark crime raps perfectly. I've legitimately played that song about 75 times since the album was released on July 11th, and when I share my end of the year stats with you guys, I'm pretty sure Antonio Tuttle is going to be my #1 most listened to song, so there's that. The rest of the album, it kind of pales in comparison a little bit to Antonio Tuttle, but it's still extremely rock solid. A great project between Boldy and Craven. That chemistry is kind of back to where it was in 2022. I'm glad. B+ for this one, 87 to 89 range. I also want to give like an honorable mention of sorts to some solid albums that came out this summer from artists like Open Mike Eagle, Gace Guevara, Slick Rick, Currency, and Raekwon. What do you think of this summer's marquee albums? What do you think of Let God Sort 'Em Out, Don't Tap the Glass, and Alfredo 2? Are they among your favorites for the summer of 2025? What else are you feeling that's been coming out lately? Let me know in the comments. Let's have a discussion as always. I want to hear what you guys think on what I think has been one of the most excellent summers for hip-hop in a very long time. Curious to see if you guys agree. Let me know down below. As always, I love you guys. Thank you for joining. Thank you for your support, and I'll see you next time.